What's up, Chiefs Kingdom? Noah Gray here, tight end for the Kansas City Chiefs. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe to Josh's channel and check out showmefootball.com for more.
What is up, Chiefs Kingdom? Welcome back to another video on my channel. My name is Josh Fan of showmefootball.com and arrowheadaddict.com, covering your Kansas City Chiefs. And today I wanted to make a quick video reacting to the Chiefs playoff draw of facing the Miami Dolphins in Arrowhead this Saturday in the wild card round of this year's NFL playoffs. First of all, I do want to apologize, though, since it has been a couple weeks now since I've made a video. I did not do a video on the Chiefs win over the Bengals last weekend. Guys, I have been very busy lately. If you didn't already know, my wife and I actually just moved into our first house, so I was busy doing moving stuff pretty much all of last week, and then I came down with COVID, and that knocked me out for quite a bit as well. You might even be able to still hear some of the congestion in my voice, but still pushing through, and I wanted to get a video out to you guys since I haven't done one in a little bit, and I wanted to react to the Kansas City Chiefs playoff matchup versus the Miami Dolphins and my initial thoughts on all that. So let's start with this. Last night, when Sunday Night Football kicked off between the Buffalo Bills and the Miami Dolphins, I was rooting for the Miami Dolphins to win because I would have rather faced the Pittsburgh Steelers in the wild card round. I just think we match up way better against them. I don't think the Steelers are one of the few teams that cannot keep up with us on offense, and that's saying a lot considering that the Chiefs have just been dreadful on the offensive side of the ball this year. And I know the numbers will say if the Chiefs are still a top 10 offense and all that. I really don't see them as a top 10 offense. Patrick Mahomes is inflating a lot of those numbers, but I mean, the Kansas City Chiefs wide receivers led the league in drops this year by a pretty wide margin. The Chiefs were tied for dead last in the league in turnover differential this year. They just were not the offense that we were used to seeing on a weekly basis. In my opinion, the Chiefs drew the toughest possible path in this year's playoffs that they could have gotten. You face Miami in the wild card in round one. Most likely, you'll have to go on the road to Buffalo and win a playoff game in the divisional round if you do make it. That's my prediction as of right now. And then, assuming you do face off against Baltimore in an AFC championship game, that is going to be an absolute gauntlet of a playoff schedule. Now, I understand that Miami hasn't looked great in these spots. I understand that they're notorious for letting their fans down in big games. Tua Tagovailoa has just not been very good when the lights are the brightest, and the Dolphins looked very vulnerable last night. Their defense is not very good at all. They're also hurting a lot with injuries. They've lost both starting defensive ends this year, Bradley Chubb and Jalen Phillips. The injuries continue to pile up on the defensive side of the ball for Miami. So this is a good time of the year to be facing them. However, as far as wild card matchups go, because I saw a lot of Chiefs fans last night on my Twitter timeline saying things like, oh, bring on the Dolphins. I'm not scared of Miami at all. And people were making fun of me because I was worried about Miami. And look, I'm not making Miami out to be some juggernaut, but they do have the personnel to score at will. It does not take very many points to beat the Kansas City Chiefs this year, guys. I don't know if you've noticed or watched the Chiefs this year, but they can't break 20 points on a consistent basis. They're terrible on offense. Like, have you guys watched the Chiefs this year at all? So while the Dolphins are not some world beaters and we would be catching them at the right time of the year, as far as wildcard matchups go, this is not favorable for the Kansas City Chiefs. I would have much rather drawn the Steelers than the Dolphins, and I think you're kidding yourself if you're not saying the same thing, because Miami has Tyreek Hill. They have Jalen Waddle still. They have Devin Achane, who averages like 8 yards per carry this year, and he's an absolute burner. And the Chiefs have struggled to stop the run as of recently. These are all things I think you have to be concerned about with the Kansas City Chiefs versus the Miami Dolphins. It does not take very many points to beat the Chiefs, and the Dolphins can put up points. If the Dolphins even score a touchdown on a broken play with Tyreek Hill facing busted coverage or something like that, that's all it takes in order to take momentum from the Chiefs and probably win the game. That's kind of the story we've seen all year long when it's the Chiefs versus whoever. You know, all it takes is a couple plays, a couple scoring drives, and you have a pretty good chance of beating Kansas City this year. I believe I saw a statistic yesterday that said the Dolphins are averaging just over 17 points per game versus teams with a winning record this year. So again, Miami is not a juggernaut. They've struggled in these spots. They're not very seasoned with playoff experience across their roster. That's where Kansas City does have an advantage, and it'll be at home. But to me, this matchup isn't super favorable because it just takes a few plays to go the Dolphins' way with their amazing skill position players. And they have a very good chance of beating the Chiefs. The Chiefs' margin for error this year has been extremely small because the defense is being asked to pitch a shutout in every game, and if they don't do that, it's hard to see this offense overcoming any sort of deficit. Like, if the Chiefs quickly go down 14-0 or something like that, I don't know, guys. I just don't feel very optimistic in that scenario. Kent Swanson of KC Sports Network also dropped a stat last night that the Chiefs are 1-4 versus the playoff field this year. And that one win did come against the Miami Dolphins. If you're looking for any sort of reason to be optimistic in this matchup. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that you should be predicting the Chiefs to lose. I still think the Chiefs should win this game, and I'll probably pick them to win. But I'm not, raving with confidence about this game. But Kent Swanson pointed out that the Chiefs are 1-4 versus the playoff field. The one game that they won coming against the Miami Dolphins, that was that game in Germany prior to the bye week. But we're very close to talking about the Chiefs being 0-5 versus the playoff field because that game took a defensive touchdown for the Kansas City Chiefs to win on that Tyreek Hill fumble. And also, in addition, it took an unforced error, a bad snap from Miami for the Chiefs to seal that game, to clinch that game. But the Dolphins were driving on us and could have very well won that game if not for that unforced error. I believe it was on that 4th down to end the game. The Chiefs defense got the stop, but it was more because of the Dolphins' mishap than the Chiefs defense doing anything. So we're very close to talking about the Chiefs being 0-5 versus playoff teams this year. So as much as everyone wants to talk about the Dolphins and how they're terrible against teams with a winning record, and yes, they are, but so are the Kansas City Chiefs. So in my opinion, both teams have an equal opportunity to win this game. These are two very flawed teams going up against each other, two teams with a lot of talent on both sides of the ball, but both very flawed. Both have stumbled versus the top teams this year. Both are very prone to making mistakes, and when you have two teams that are prone to making mistakes and haven't reached their full potential this year, you can get a very weird matchup that can go a variety of different ways. But the Chiefs do have the advantage because they have the edge at the quarterback position. This game is at home. A lot of people want to talk about this game being played in 10-degree Kansas City weather and how the Dolphins aren't going to be ready for that. I'm not sure I buy into that factor too much because, yes, the Dolphins are used to warmer weather, but it's not like they haven't played in cold weather, and it's not like their players are all native to the state of Florida or Miami. A lot of these guys either grew up in places where it was really cold or played college football in places that are really cold. So it's not like they've never seen this kind of weather before and they're just going to back down because of how cold it is in Kansas City. I think that is a little bit overrated. But this is just the reality for the Chiefs. When you mess around in the regular season and you lose a bunch of games that you should have won, you lose a bunch of one-score games, your playoff spot suffers, your seeding drops down, and you're going to have to face tougher matchups in the early rounds because you messed around and lost a bunch of games that you shouldn't. This is the path that the Chiefs created for themselves. Now they just have to execute and win. I don't think anyone disagrees with the notion that Kansas City could absolutely rip off a bunch of wins and make it back to the Super Bowl because they have the defense for it. But the question is, can they clean up the issues on offense? If the Chiefs look more like they did against the Cincinnati Bengals, I didn't get to talk about that game. Now, the Cincinnati Bengals game, Mahomes did fumble, and there were a few mistakes here and there. But for the most part, they moved the ball a lot better in that game. They just struggled in the red zone a little bit, settled for a lot of field goals, but they still scored 25 points. And if they can just do that, more often than not, they will win these games because the magic number all year long that I've said is 24 points. If the Chiefs can score 24 points, they'd be like a 13-win team right now, and they'd probably be a 1 or a 2 seed in the AFC. So they made all those mistakes. Now this is where they're at because of it, and now they just have to execute. If they can execute, they can win all these games, but it's going to be really tough, guys. I can't lie to you about that. Miami in the wild card round, I don't know. We'll see. And then if they beat Miami, they'll probably have to go to Buffalo for a playoff game. That's a tough playoff environment. They haven't been on the road in the playoffs since Patrick Mahomes has been the starter. That'll be their first road playoff game. And Buffalo is a tough place to have that. You're going to be facing a red-hot Bills team. Josh Allen seems to have caught fire now. He's still prone to causing a lot of turnovers, so we'll see what happens if the Chiefs do make it that far. But even after that, if you beat them, probably going up against the Baltimore Ravens, and the Baltimore Ravens have just kind of kicked everyone's ass this year. For a while I said, hey, no one in the AFC is a juggernaut, but the Baltimore Ravens they're about as close to a juggernaut as you're going to get. They're a very good team. They play discipline. They have a tough defense. Lamar Jackson is always tough to stop, so we'll cross that bridge when we get there, but my reaction to the Chiefs drawing the Miami Dolphins on Wild Card Weekend, it's a tough matchup, guys. As far as Wild Card matchups go, I mean, even comparing this team to the Jacksonville Jaguars, who the Chiefs faced in the divisional round last year in their first playoff game, that team, it always felt like the Chiefs should beat them and that the Jaguars weren't quite there. But with this Dolphins team, I just feel like the skill position players are so elite that, man, I don't know, because if the Dolphins can put up 20 points, that might be all it takes for them to beat the Kansas City Chiefs. Because everyone wants to sit here and talk about how underwhelming the Dolphins are and how they're terrible versus the top teams. Guys, look at the Kansas City Chiefs. They're almost the same exact team, except for the fact that they just have a really good defense that's made up for a lot of their mistakes this year. Miami, it's not been the same case. So Miami's offense has had to carry most of the load, and while they've underperformed versus winning teams, that doesn't mean they need to be fantastic to beat the Chiefs, because the Chiefs have been terrible versus the top teams and their offense has struggled mightily. So we'll see what happens in this game. That's my initial reaction to this wild card matchup. I'm not saying that I'm going to pick the Chiefs to lose. I said earlier I'll probably pick them to win this game, but I'm not feeling super confident like, yeah, the Chiefs are just going to shut the Dolphins down. I mean, it's going to be Tyreek Hill's return to Arrowhead. He's probably going to be amped up in that game. Tyreek Hill kind of had a dud in the last game in Germany versus the Chiefs. I don't know if you can count on that happening twice with a player as great as Tyreek Hill. He's going to be feeling some type of way playing in Arrowhead again, so we'll see what happens with that matchup. And then I know a lot of people are complaining, I'll end with this, that this game is going to be featured on Peacock exclusively. So in order to watch this playoff game, unless you live in the local Kansas City area and get the Chiefs game on your TV with local television, you're going to have to subscribe to Peacock in order to watch this game. Streaming services are taking over when it comes to football games. We saw the first signs of this when Amazon Prime got Thursday Night Football, meaning you have to purchase Amazon Prime to watch Thursday night games. Now you have to purchase Peacock to watch a playoff game. A lot of people are complaining about this, including myself. I'm not happy with it, but a lot of people are saying, well, how could you put the Kansas City Chiefs and Tyreek Hill's return to Arrowhead on Peacock? And the truth is, guys, that the reason the NFL did this, a lot of people want to act like the Chiefs are too good to be on Peacock, but it's actually the opposite. The Chiefs are such a draw for the NFL. They know that people aren't going to pay for Peacock if it's some random lower seeded game from like the NFC or something. They want to put a game on Peacock that they know people are willing to pay to watch, which is why they're putting the Chiefs versus the Dolphins on Peacock. That is an interesting matchup. That's a game a lot of people want to see. It's Patrick Mahomes. He's a huge draw. So that's why they put the game on Peacock, because they want people to start flocking over to Peacock and paying for that because they want the numbers to look good. So it is what it is. I'll do whatever it takes to watch the Chiefs. The NFL knows that because I'm not the only one that feels that way. That's why they did this. So felt like I should throw in my 2 cents on that. But yeah, guys, those are my initial thoughts on the Kansas City Chiefs matching up against the Miami Dolphins in the wild card round on Saturday night. I want to hear from you, though. What are your thoughts on the Chiefs drawing this path through the NFL playoffs? how confident are you in this matchup versus the Miami Dolphins? Let me know down below. With all that being said, make sure you like, share, and subscribe so more Chiefs fans can find this. Make sure you check out my work on showmefootball.com and arrowheadaddict.com for more. I'll see you all in the next one. Go Chiefs!